Hello, welcome to our session where we're going to be using coils to make a bowl. So you're going to find a bowl of your choice of size. You're going to get a piece of plastic to line the bowl because you don't want it to stick. Take your end over. You're going to get your coils. This is your coil, just a nice long cylinder, or snake as the kids will call it. So you can either put a flat circle in the middle here to start your base, or you can start by using this. What you're going to have to watch when doing this is when you start it, you're going to want to keep the edges together, score them a little bit, just so you get some traction. You're going to use slip. So you don't want it to break as it dries. Let's get the nice a little closer to you guys. So you can see this is just how I'm starting it, just so it gets its shape. Then I'm going to tuck it in. You guys see it like this. It's going to resist, it's plastic. Okay, let's bring it a little bit closer. So it's a long process of scoring the inner edge, using some slip on it, and then just easing it in. You want to make sure the edges are well joined. Squish them together a little bit without wrecking your coil. When you get to the end piece, you're going to take your sharp or pointed object. You're going to do it at an angle. Put that little piece to the side. Your next piece, you're actually going to cut at the opposite angle. You see this? So that way they're going to interlay. And then you're going to take your scory guide, rough it up their sections, more slip, lots of slip. Make sure the plastic doesn't go between the grooves, because a flat piece of plastic in a round bowl will tend to. You're going to take your new piece, score it, and this is going to be the inside edge, so I can score that as well. Just going to get a bit of slip in here. Okay, so it's our slip piece. Spin it around. We're going to join our edges. You're probably going to have to pinch them a bit to get them together. You want a nice firm seal. Mine squished a little much, so I'm going to add in there a little piece on top. A little bit of slip so it holds. So I want a nice good groove. Not sure if you can see that. There we go. And then you're going to keep slipping, scoring until, yes, it will move around. It's the fun of coils. Until you get your bowl eventually done. So you can score either the side on the inside of the bowl or when you're trying to maneuver. Most people will find it easier to score the one inside. If you've got a hard time getting your fingers in, you can also use the slip, or your tools to move the slip. I need a little bit less than that. It's going to get muddy. That's what the cleaning stage is for. Making sure that I got no plastic between them. Okay, got some more of this. See that? A little slip. A little more slip. I don't want this to break. Nothing's worse than when it breaks apart on you and you're cleaning it. Then you come to the end, you can either put it down. The alternative way, if you don't want to do it in one long coil, is that you do each layer and you interlock them. Just make sure the interlocks don't want to create one giant weak spot. So you could easily do one circle, then another circle, then another circle again. That gives you a much more even look than this does. But I can also turn around and cut this when I find my sharp. It ran away again. And I can always continue on with a little bit more slip. Just kind of make it one long continuous piece so it looks like it slants down. You can see this. Okay, and you can leave it all as an obvious coil, or if you want to add additional strength and don't like the look of coils, you can also merge all of these together by pushing up and pulling down with your thumb. Push down. I'm trying to get a little more in the light here. Pull up, push down. Up or down, either one works. Or if you want to go side to side, just don't trap any air bubbles between the layers, because when that goes to get fired, the heat will cause some difficulties there. It is easier if you get your finger wet with a little bit of water or slip. Because in a bowl I can push outwards without too much fear of it doing anything unusual. If you want to put decorations in it, sketchings in it, now's also a good time. So this I'm going to work out here while I'm here, just because this is the good stage to work out the big stuff. The smaller lines I can probably get out later on, but these were rather large coils. I'm going to even up the top here so that the gradient isn't quite as unusual. I can also take care of that in the clean when I level out the top a little bit more. Or if you want a bowl that has like a pour spout on it, that's also a good point to use that for. Okay. Normally, if you're happy with that, you just let it sit and dry. But because I want to show you what it looks like, I am going to pull it out. You can actually use the plastic as a cradle. It is a bit wet, so I have to be very careful, but you can still see the rungs. Lower this, sorry. So I can clean these up later and still get the outer rimmed look while having the inner strength. I'm going to put him back in. So there we go. As you can see, I can just re-straighten this out later. And I'll fix up the top. And now we're just going to cover it up and let it air out for a week until we can clean it. I will see you next week. We're now going to be cleaning our coil bowl. When taking it out, use the plastic as a cradle so you don't damage the bowl. As you can see, it is sturdy enough. It holds its own shape. It's in a state called leather hard, where it is still workable. I can smooth pieces out, it carves easily, but you're not going to do much in the way of working it. So here's our inside. Needs work. Here's our outside. It needs a lot more work. Okay, just clean up whatever you like. We're going to use the sponge to smooth things over. And the clay is still soft enough in this case that I can actually use it to go into some of the holes here and wedge things out. Just a little bit of water and smooth it over. I can clean up a little bit later with the sponge. You don't want to go too deep because this is the only thing holding the levels together. Inside, I don't like any of these grooves here, so we're just going to smooth some of this out, some of the bigger parts. Okay. You don't want your sponge too wet, because it will actually weaken the clay. You can use a tool or the back of your nail to smooth out any rough spots. Your finger can also be used to smooth them out as well. Let's see if this guy gives me the bear shape for this. Be careful when supporting it that we don't push too hard, because you can collapse the bowl at this stage. Some of these edges are a little dry in there, so I'm having to scrub a little bit harder because they're harder. If you notice, I'm also using my nail behind the sponge to actually widen the groove here, which also molds the clay a little bit. Oh, that's too wet. Okay, that looks a sight better. Okay, now we're gonna leave this outer edge until last. You can see it's really uneven. We're gonna look at the inside first. So I can feel that it's not even, so we're gonna go about and just leveling a bunch of this out. Okay, so it's better, not perfect. I'm just going to use the sponge. Always support the other side when you're cleaning against it, just so you don't break it. You can't think you can really see it, but when I push on it, it is actually folding a little bit. I can feel it even though you can't see it. Once again, if you get any little lines in here that you just can't seem to sponge out, use your nail or a tool and just smooth them over. They're quite common when you work with coils. That's the inside. It's much better now. This top edge is going to require a little bit more. I'm actually going to use our guy here this time to help out. So, like if you liked uneven things, you could even do little dipped printers, or your handle went so it could sit there and sit nicely. If you had a piece of sandpaper on a board, you could turn it upside down and actually turn it slowly, and it would slowly whittle away your higher edges, which is usually what I do. This one needs a little bit more work than that. This is actually a little too hard for the sharp, so I am going to have to cut it. You can see the consistency. It still balls, it still sticks. Not quite enough for hand milling, but it does form. If you ever want to do carvings and stuff, this is the stage to do them in, because they'll go very nicely right now. And you can take a look and see where it's sitting higher. And then just trim those spots down. So I can see I have to take this guy down a fair bit. I'll just mark him. I gotta take this guy down a bit. A little bit right here. Okay. I can go look for our marks. Here they are. Usually you do little bits at a time. I'm doing quite big sized chunks this time. Here's now one of our marks. Another one. Note our high spots, it's still there. There's a little bit of one there. this is going to allow us to see where it rubs. As you can see, any of your shiny spots right here are where it's still rubbing. We're getting closer. Don't shave off much at this step here. As you can see, most of the edges this time actually did rub, so we just need to trim it a little bit more, sponge it down, and it should be good to dry a little bit more for next time. I'm just evening out the shape a bit. Use the sponge again. Be careful you don't catch these little bits that we scrubbed off in the sponge, because they will catch and they'll smear, and you'll have a little bit more cleaning to do next week. Just kind of dampening it down right now, letting it sit for a second. Okay, pick a drier edge, take it into a U form. So that way it gets all your edges. It's not going to look perfect, but usually you don't get perfect out of a coil bowl. Oh, that's much better in the way of flat. Still a little rise here. Okay, well, it's still a little too wet. I'll let it dry another week and I can brush these out, and I think it should be good to be fired, and I'll rely on glazes to make this one a little fancier. If you're into carving, go ahead and do it. It's not going to be like one of your yarn bowls for knitting. Just do a little hook in here to control the string.